Hello and welcome to our live stream podcast today. And we are grateful to you for tuning in and to spend your precious time with us this Saturday. It is the weekend. And our program, Gracious Hope Live Podcast, features various topics that stimulate our thoughts and contemporary issues that we discuss here. They all affect our Christian journey of faith. And so today's discussion will focus on the irony of the Liberian justice system. And we are confident that our content that we will provide today will captivate and engage you. And so please sit back, relax, and join us on this journey of our program today. And please feel free to share your comments below in the comment section because today we want to hear your voice and to be part of this discussion. So you can do so by sharing your comments. Now, the legal system in Liberia is supposed to provide justice and fairness to everyone, but unfortunately, corruption, nepotism, and political influence often hinder this process. And this means those in power exploit the system, creating inequality and hardship for the less privileged. And the sad truth or reality is that those with connections or wealth often receive preferential treatment, which is unfair and leads to a lack of trust in the justice system. And this is particularly devastating for marginalized members of our society as it perpetuates a circle of inequality and undermines the rule of law. However, there is always hope. As all believers in Christ, always there is hope. And you can make a difference by participating in our live discussion today on the Gracious Hope Live podcast. And the program will feature our special guest, Mr. Emmanuel Savice. And he is the Chief Executive Officer of Liberia United for Justice and Accountability, LUJA for short. My name is Pastor Alexander Red, and I'm here with the co-host, Reverend Suah Deddeh. And of course, we will be joining this conversation with our special guest, and you can be part of that by participating and addressing this issue of injustice in our country, Liberia. And we all can work towards a more just and equitable society. But your voice matters. And together, we can make a big difference, a real difference in Liberia's fight for justice and fairness. So when there is injustice, it can lead to various negative consequences for individuals and society. People may feel marginalized, oppressed, and powerless, leading to anger, frustration, and hopelessness. So injustice can also perpetuate inequality and discrimination, resulting in long-term social and economic impact. And it is important for all of us to work toward justice and equity in all aspects of the Liberian society to create a fair and inclusive world for everyone. Addressing and combating injustice to promote fairness and equality in society is very important. Injustice can cause people to lose what? Trust in institutions, leading to anger and frustration. And so when there is injustice, it can lead to various adverse or negative outcomes, such as unequal treatment, discrimination, and social unrest. And we have seen a recipe of that in the Liberian conflict, the ongoing conflict. Yes, we may not be physically at war right now, but in the minds and in the hearts, we are still entrapped in that war mentality. And that is why we look forward to see progress in our country. And that progress can only be possible if we understand the language of justice, fairness, equal opportunity for all, fairness. And if we look back and look at our whole history, even before the Civil War, what causes everything that we are facing right now is because of lack of love for each other and injustice. The tendency to dispense unequal wealth to the entire society, masses as a whole. So then there's conflict, and we have experienced that over the years. And so today, yes, we'll be looking at some training issues in our society today. Well, recently, the American ambassador, McCarthy, made a stunning remark regarding the importation of cocaine, that is drugs in the country, and the freeing of those who were arrested, as well as, among other things, cautioning the press to ask tough questions instead of going um, along with the hey and the nay and the pageantry and the prompts and all of that. They need to be digging deeper into the issues that are facing the Liberian people. And so it is with due diligence. I will now bring on our co-host here, Reverend Suah as Deddeh. Reverend Deddeh, we are back here, and it is a really complex issue when it comes to justice in our country.
Yeah, sure. Before I say anything, this is the day the Lord has made. I'm rejoicing in it, and I'm glad, and I hope you are the same. Uh, our country we love, but we have issues to deal with, like any other country. But it's good to face the issues head on. And the American ambassador has been trying to point us towards those issues so that we don't lose sight of them. I think that's what he's trying to do. His intention is not to put Liberia down or to put Liberians down, but rather to call us to action in a sense where we see what is happening and speak up and speak out so that we don't invite what led us to civil wars in Liberia to rear its head again. And that's why whenever he speaks, we take it seriously. Because he's speaking to the issue. He's not just discussing personalities as other people would do, but he's trying to look at the real issues that we are faced with so that we can work towards resolving these issues. And that's what his recent statement is all about, discussing the media, politicians, the Femiton declaration that was signed by political parties a few months ago. Um, um, Committing themselves to non-violence, to rule of law, and accepting elections results and the rest of that. So today we'll just look at his statement and dissect it a little bit as far as we can see it, and let our people chime in with the comments and views and observation, which we always look forward to. So Alice, welcome, buddy. How are you today? Of
Yeah,
course.
yes, I'm doing fine. And to all our viewers, if you're just joining us, this is the Gracious Hope Live podcast, and our program or platform is intended to promote and preserve the Liberian Christian heritage. We give our perspective based on God's word, and so with that biblical foundation, we are aligned with why our country, Liberia, was founded. If we see our preamble, that yes, if we are to survive as a nation, we must turn to God because He is the sovereign Lord who ordains every leader, and also He's the one who helped us to establish a nation called Liberia today. In other words, a land of liberty. But are we ready enjoying our freedom? Now, justice comes in the forefront because without justice, there's no peace. And a lot of people are crying in our heart right now for injustice. They experience directly or indirectly, could be the family members in the past during the war, and even up to now in the court system. So then we will be delving into our justice system to see the irony of our justice system. What are some of the pros and cons that we can pick up to see the gap and to see how best we can all work to foster a unified society? And so our guest is here today, Mr. Emmanuel Savice. He's a justice advocate, and he will be our guest here today. But before we get to him quickly here, Reverend Deddeh, let us make sense of what this ambassador has been talking about, prodding the Liberian government to do better. And he is very straightforward in his language, and some people feel very unsettled in the way that he expresses his concern about Liberia's health, the entire country.
But I don't see anything to be unsettled about. He's speaking to the issues that confront us. And it's always good, at least, to look at the issues and deal with them. Don't sweep them under the rug. And if you have a friend indeed who takes your country seriously, who takes you seriously, and who wants to see the best for your country, and I'm speaking about Ambassador McCarthy, is to listen to what he's saying. I haven't heard him saying so far, at least, correct me if I'm wrong, discussing people. And when I say people, personalities. Rather, he looks at the issues and bring the issues to the forefront. So his recent statement is just one of those statements that tries to bring the issues up front. I look at the statement. I listen to the video. I watch the video, and I took a few notes from there. And for those of you who don't know Ambassador McCarthy, he's been here. I mean, not here. I mean, in Liberia as an ambassador since January 22nd, 2021. He's been there for a while now. He was nominated by President Donald Trump in November. In June 2nd, he was nominated, and he was confirmed on November 18th. So he's a career foreign service officer. So that means he's way there in a high tier of the foreign service. So he knows what he's talking about. He's served in South Africa and other countries around the world. So he's speaking from an informed position where he's bringing the issues so that we see them and try to make amends or fix them before they get out of hand. One of the issues he mentioned recently was the issue at Prince Johnson's church about 2 weeks ago. He called them back. I mean, the politicians' attention to the Farmington Declaration, where all of them agreed, they signed a document to have peace in the country, to respect the rule of law, to accept the elections results, and all those things. So he's reminding them that they should not lose sight of the Farmington Declaration, because the Farmington Declaration, they signed it, and they should adhere to that declaration, because if they don't pay attention to the letter of the declaration, it was a waste of time signing that declaration. So he's calling the attention. Let me just go back to what he says here. He reminds political leaders of the Farmington Declaration, the Farmington River Declaration, to prevent violence. I'm looking at the notes I took from that video. To prevent violence, to cooperate with law enforcement agencies, expand voters' education, and avoid inflammatory languages and disinformation. Okay, and the recent issue that happened at Prince Johnson's church, it was something that he see to be inflammatory, that would lead to violence if Prince Johnson had not calmly walked away from the situation. He does not want that to happen. In fact, he said he called politicians to not allow that nonsense to happen again. He used the word nonsense.
Nonsense.
Yes, he used the word nonsense. So it was a strong word, but the word meant to get the attention of politicians or whosoever were involved in that, to not repeat that nonsense that happened 2 weeks ago in Liberia, where the services were disrupted by people who claim to come from political parties.
Yes.
They said it for NPP. I mean,
Yes.
CDC. So it was clear. It was clear that they went to actually call up Prince Johnson. That's what they said as we watched the video, Alex. So the ambassador is saying that nonsense should not happen again.
Exactly.
Yeah, not happen again. Yeah, go ahead, Alex. Go ahead.
What about he front on the Liberian justice system for losing this 100 million cocaine case, and apparently he's calling Musa Dean a loser. He has not come up with any case that he has won over his term all along. He said government loses appeal to halt even the 100 million cocaine verdict. This is a travesty to justice, where all the evidence is there, and we know that even bringing cocaine of huge quantity in our country can be devastating for the young people. So there's something much deeper here. There's something much deeper when it comes to the sense of justice that we are all seeking here. Cocaine of this magnitude in a small country of almost 4 million people. I mean, who are the manufacturers? I mean, how did this came to being, and what is going on here? Why were these people acquitted? And so the ambassador is also concerned. Even Liberians are concerned. Why the drug dealers ran away? Why? And what's going on here? And this is a very big problem when it comes to our justice system.
Sure, but ambassador did not use the word loser. So we want to.
Yes.
Yeah. So if you just trying to maybe go beyond what he's saying and interpret or his statement, but he did not use the word loser. What he said was, and I'm glad you raised that, Alex. I went back to his video, and he says, like many Liberians, including the Justice Ministry or the Ministry of Justice, like many Liberians, including the Ministry of Justice, he's starting to see. I mean, I'm quoting from what he said. He's starting to see the acquittal of suspects in the recent human trafficking case and the US $100 million of cocaine or trafficking case. He said we he sees no reason why with the evidence that seems to have, he sees no
Mhm.
reason why these people could not have been convicted. Okay, he doesn't understand where the acquittal came from in the face of all the evidence that they had. But then he said, and I want to be clear on that, he's not second guessing the judiciary or the jury, okay? Because he's not privy to the defenses and the prosecution or things they have. But he's seen it from a general perspective where the international criminal cartel might see this as the country that does not enforce law and order, and they might
Mhm.
want to keep coming back to this country to do what they try to do, and they went scot free. That's what he was trying to say. So you can go ahead, Alex.
Okay, great. And looking at the press before we get to our guest here, Mr. Emmanuel Savice, looking at the press, he also frowns on the press, or he urges the press to do more probing in their journalistic work, because
Great.
nowadays we have a lot of people on social media claiming to be journalists, and we know that they don't probe, they don't look search for the truth, they don't look at the who, where, how, and what is going on here to properly analyze each case. And so then the Liberian electorate is confused in every way. And so then he says real journalists should now stand up and be looking into the issue by probing much deeper, looking at what the candidates bring to the table, not just glossing over the facts.
Wonderful, wonderful. And he went beyond the media. He said he urges the media institutions and integrity organizations. That means civil
Yes.
society, other groups that are in civil society. It could be the bar association, it could be the medical association, it could be those people who have credibility. He's calling on them and media institutions to keep politicians, according to him, to keep politicians in all parties accountable,
Yeah.
accountable to their important declarations and comments. He said the media, which is you have been part of the media, and it is true. The media should not just deal with those cases, they call it horse racist cases where who's ahead, who's behind, the rest of that, but ask critical questions. Ask critical questions of the politicians, and maybe vet their platforms. Okay, so that you see what's in the platform for the citizenry to know what is there, and then also educate the citizenry to know what lies ahead in the face of the October elections coming up. So he's calling the media to play the part, to play the ethical and professional role of keeping politicians feet to the fire in a constructive way, not subjective way, in a constructive way, so that Liberians can see these
Mhm.
political parties as what they are in order to make the right decisions, Alex.
Great, great. Okay, and our guest will be coming up here soon to give his perspective on the issue of Liberian justice and how we can pretty much see both the odds and the future of our justice system. And he'll be here soon. So make your voice heard, okay? Make your comments below. Say what is on your heart and be part of the discussion. And as we do so, or as you do so, we'll be glad that you did. So then we will be right back. Please don't go away. We'll be right back. All right, welcome back. And we are back here. And if you're just joining us, this is the Gracious Hope Live podcast. We are here every Saturday at 3 p.m. Central Time, 4 p.m. Eastern Time, and of course, 1 p.m. Pacific Time in Liberia. Yes, you can get us at, I believe, 8 p.m. or 9 p.m., if I'm not mistaken. Okay, so with due diligence, it is a pleasure to bring on our special guest here, Mr. Emmanuel Savice. He is the CEO of let's see, the LUJA, Liberians United for Justice and Accountability, which was established in 2018. He collected a lot of signatures regarding the cry for war crime court in our country, and he submitted those signatures to Congress, the U.S. Congress, if I'm not mistaken. But he will clarify that. But he is an advocate for justice. He strongly believes in justice, and he saw the horror of war, and so. It is our pleasure to have him here as our special guest. We'd like to say, Mr. Savice, welcome to the Gracious Hope Live podcast today. His screen is frozen. I don't know. Are
Thank
you
you very much,
driving?
there, Mr. Rand. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, but your voice is going in and out.
Yeah, I think you should park the vehicle. Other than
You
that,
should,
would
I
be.
think you may
Can you
want to
can you hear me?
maybe stop by the roadside, and it will be more stable. Your video will be more stable if you stop by the roadside and then continue. Can you do that, please? Okay, let him do that. And while he's doing that, yes, so he has been against a perverted justice, and he feels that our justice system needs to revamp itself. That is, to get all of the tools needed in order to dispense justice to all, equal treatment, no discrimination, because we all have witnessed social unrest in our country arising from injustice. So when people are put to the wall or pinned to the wall, and they see just a few in society enjoying the wealth of the country, yes, surely, surely, that's what we see in our country. The Civil War came about, as well as some other underpinnings that undermine our own growth as an African oldest independent nation since 1847. We have been huddled or hobbled by individual selfishness, as well as a political system that is not for all. And so this is what we'll be talking about today here on this segment, or the second segment of our podcast. But our guest is kind of in and out. I'm not sure he's driving. We're hoping that he will have a stable video feed through here so that we could hear a whole lot from him, because he has been in Liberia. He currently lives in Canada with his family, but he has been advocating for a war crime court for justice, so that the justice system can provide redress to all those who were harmed unfairly throughout the Civil War and even up to date. And hopefully he will come on, but we're waiting for that. Reverend Deddeh,
Yeah,
it is
so
unfortunate how the irony of our Liberian justice system
mhm.
um, the justice system does not give a fair share to the underprivileged.
Indeed, and the ambassador speaks to that as well in his video. I like to always go back to it and use his own words. He said, from an outsider perspective, it is alarming that these cases, the cases made, the human trafficking cases, the human trafficking case and the cocaine case, that these convictions could not be obtained in Liberia, even when the evidence seems so overwhelming. He's worried, according to him, he's worried about what these developments portend for Liberia justice sector, which, according to him, the U.S. government has spent many millions of dollars in developing capacity for judiciary and the rest of that.
Mhm.
He's concerned that these two cases, because if I can bring it back to it, there were two cases. One, the human trafficking case and the cocaine case. All of them, the culprits went free, and he's concerned about that because he said if that continues to happen, people will just think, in my mind, if that continues to happen, people will just think you do anything, you go to court, you might not get convicted, no matter how big the case is. And nobody wants to see that happen in our country. We want to see people who violate the laws to be tried and convicted. But then again, somebody will say they want to court, and the court has exonerated them. So what do we say, Alex?
Yeah, well, I mean, the thing is, I haven't gone through to see the nitty gritty of why those arrested were released, but I think it would do justice to even those who are released or the defendants if we're to look at why, on what grounds, on what legal or technicality they were released. Because for every legal case, if there's any kind of technical error in the procedure, can be a sufficient ground
Yeah.
to throw our case. For example, the election commissioner, right? The National Elections Commissioner had a case in court brought against her regarding special interest, conflict of interest. You
Mm-hmm.
remember that?
Mm-hmm.
And there was a technical error in the procedure, and that, of course, warranted uh, the, um, the voiding of the entire case. And so, if the case is thrown, the case can be thrown out if insufficient evidence. But in this case, there were overwhelming evidence for what we see. However, there might be some other legal levers that we may not know as legal experts. We don't, we might know. And
Mm-hmm.
so, based on that, until we can see the reason why, but the media is only swamped with the or overwhelmed with the news that, well, there are evidence that there's evidence and these people are acquitted, but they should be prosecuted, but they haven't really gone into the legal explanation of why the jury uh, gave this verdict. Some
Yeah.
may say, well, they were bribed and all of that, but we don't have any evidence of that.
Sure. So I agree with you, and that's why I keep going back to what the ambassador said recently, because he said why he said he hesitates to second guess the judiciary. So I think you're saying the same thing that he's saying. He doesn't want to just second guess the jury, because they might have seen things that he didn't see, or seen things that we don't know about. So if that's the case, then those things that they see that we don't see should come to the public's glare, so that the public begin to draw her own conclusion or its own conclusion to see, oh, okay, these were the evidences that existed. That's why the cases were not acquitted or occur in the cases. So
Mhm.
until that happens, we don't know, but they were acquitted. That's what the bottom line is right now.
Yes, yes, they were acquitted. And our guest is still finding it troubling to come through. Hopefully, we are hoping that he will, be at a stable place where he can, come in with his video stream or encoder, so that we can furthermore discuss about what it means to be a recipient of justice, and what it means to advocate for justice, and what it means to feel discriminated, and what it means to be unequally treated in a society, and what it means to suffer under social arrest because of the bad decisions of the few. And we know there's always hope, as we said, and biblically speaking, all Christians know that when it comes to the society as a whole, we are to be law abiding.
Mhm.
However, when we are treated with injustice or treated unfairly, yes, we have to make our voices heard,
Mhm.
so that justice uh, prevail, so that justice can prevail.
Yeah, I
But
agree.
now, in this case, when it comes to not just the recent cocaine case, but there are some other cases that we can look at. For example, the killings. Okay, we have seen people brought to court. We have not seen the outcome in a way. For example, the Musu Scott case. Okay, let me bring her on the screen here. This lady, her daughter was killed in their home. Okay, an intruder came in the home and killed this woman's daughter. And up to now, we have not seen any definitive answer, or we have not seen the entire issue addressed, so that this woman, she is the former Chief Justice of our country, of our judiciary system, and now she is still seeking justice for her daughter, who was killed by an intruder who intentionally, or as we heard, uh, they were after the Chief Justice, they were after her, but her daughter came in the way. And that is the account that we are hearing. But hopefully, we still look forward to see justice prevail in every way. Reverend Deddeh,
I
on this
agreed.
Musu Scott issue.
I definitely agree with you. And my concern, at least from what I said, is that if this happened to the former Chief Justice, and up to now, the investigation is inconclusive. Inconclusive because we don't know what happened, who has been arrested, to what extent, whether the person has been placed on trial. We don't know. Now, this is the former Chief Justice, Ellis, the former Chief Justice, her daughter. Bring that to a common citizen. Okay, we might not have even heard about it had it been a common citizen. We heard when the two sons of the former president Stober and Tubman were killed. We don't know what happened up to now. No investigation, no update from the police and law enforcement. We don't know. Nobody's trying to unnecessarily or unduly criticize the law enforcement because we are not behind the scenes to know what's going on. But from what we see from the surface, we don't see anything in terms of investigation and the results of this investigation. So even if the police was investigating, I mean, update the public on what's happening. We're not asking you to give your methods and tactics in how you do it, but letting people know what you're doing so that they won't think you're not doing anything. Okay, so the Chief Justice case is still hanging. The two sons of the two former presidents stay hanging. We don't know what happened. The auditors stay hanging. We don't know what happened. So somebody will ask the question: what is the law enforcement plus the judiciary doing about law and order in the country? That is the question some people ask, Ellis.
Yes, that's the question. And even the ambassador brings it out. The police is underfunded. No operational funds for police. Why? Breeds corruption. So if you have a security apparatus that is not well funded and well trained, that's what happened. So lack of adequate operation funds, lack of adequate operation funds means what? Police officers have to request money from those who complain to what carry out request, and it is a travesty of justice right there. Because if I have to pay you as a policeman in order for you to arrest the person who inflicted harm on me, then it is an imbalance right there. It questions the credibility of the justice system. So then, if we look at our justice system, the question is, do we really trust our justice system, our institution of justice, the entire judiciary, which includes the courts, the Ministry of Justice, the police, the national security apparatus? It's a matter of trust where it is at right now. And our guest, as we still wait our guest, there's still struggle in the back here. But however, we'll continue the discussion until he can make his way in here, Reverend
Yeah.
Deddeh.
Yeah, so again, some of the things we've heard, we cannot verify, but we discuss them because when more than one person say the same thing, there's smoke somewhere. It might not be too much fire, but there might be smoke somewhere. I've heard Liberians, some Liberians talking about the court system, especially the law enforcement, where they have a case run to the police depot, and then the police depot commander says, "Buy our gas to go and do our work." It speaks to what the ambassador said. If the police is underfunded, you are asking for corruption. Okay, these people are men and women who I believe want to serve their country. Let's give them the benefit of the doubt. They want to serve the country, Alex. But if they don't have the means, the logistics to do it, we cannot keep blaming them when they don't have the means to do certain things they have to do. So if I went to the police station, Ellis, and I'm aggrieved about certain things, and I may not have funds, and you're asking me to buy gas for your pickup, or you don't have transportation, then the complainant have to get maybe taxi. You're putting too much pressure on the people. It has to stop. It has to stop at some point where the government will see the need to fund the police, law enforcement fully, so that they are able to carry out the national duties to the citizenry that is paying them. Because okay, I almost said tax. Yes, we're still paying taxes to government to pay our people. Some people still pay their taxes, but this is a serious matter. And I know we pay the police sometimes, but they have their own issue to have to deal with when it comes to logistics.
Yeah, and what will be your take as well? And to you viewers, you may chime in as well. Look at the entire civil war up to now, where Liberia is heading. Do you think those who were harmed unlawfully in the past throughout the Civil War, inflicting harm on these people? Do you think they really deserve justice now, or is it like, okay, let's bygone be bygone, and let us move on? What is your take? Do you think that it is necessary for to establish a court so that we can bring victims in to have um, those who are affected unfairly to receive justice? And or do you think the way that it is going right now, where some of the commanders of the war who fled into other countries, they were later on sought out and then they received justice? For example, recently in Sweden, there was a former warlord who was convicted of crime against humanity. We also heard that story in the Philadelphia area, maybe 2 years ago or 3 years ago, about a former fighter who was also convicted in foreign court. But when it comes to our own Liberian court, we haven't seen nothing like that yet.
Yeah, I think I heard about the Tom Wowoyu case too, but may so rest in peace. I don't know whether he was convicted or what, but he was
No,
also,
no,
yeah.
he wasn't.
Okay.
Uh,
So yeah.
yes, go
So
ahead.
the issue of the war crime or tribunal or war or court, any way we want to name it, to dub it, is something that the international community will work on, because if you look at the court in The Hague, okay, where our former president is being now tried. In fact, not just tried, but convicted already for 50 years. I mean, in jail for 50 years. That was the outcome of outcry for people for the international community to get involved in a situation where culprits of the law, perpetrators of the law of the war, would not just go scot free, but rather be brought to justice. The TRC, when the TRC was funded and they had all this hearing, the rest of that, the conclusion was the war crimes court,
Mhm.
so that those who are accused will have the day in court. And for me, that's how I see the war crime court. Those who are accused will have the day in court to say, I did not do it. No, they lie on me. Or yes, I participated in this one, but not to the extent that I'm being accused of. I think the war crime tribunal is a win-win if we look at it from the perspective of where the accusers will have the day in court, and those who are accusing will also have the day to say you did it, and then the accuser will say no, I didn't do it, and then at the end of the day, the truth comes up. That's how it's going to be a win-win situation. So people who just go against the war crime tribunal for reasons known to themselves, I don't know how they see it, but I see it differently. So, Alice, how you see it yourself when it comes to the war
Well,
crime court?
well, if I see people still nursing their grudges and their grief due to the unfair or unwarranted infliction of pain and suffering on that particular family that exists today, I believe there should be a redress, but it should be done in a fair way, where people will be treated, both the victims and those that are accused, the defense. They should have the due process of law. They should have the rights to make that case, and then adjudication of the case can bring an end to that. Because um, if there's no justice meted against those who perpetrate the heinous crime, then there will be dissatisfaction. And so in our society today, that's why we see many of our advocates, they tend to advocate for justice because they know there are still victims who cry every day, and they
Mhm.
cannot allow that stain of unrest and that stain of trauma still in our head. It's like an old tape playing over and over of what they did to their mother or their dad or their family, who had indiscriminately, you know, um, treated unfairly among the rest of the people. It could be travel discrimination because during the Civil War, with Taylor and his forces, and then Samuel Doe, it was all about the crown people uh, was in power, were in power. The crown people, they had the authority, and so when they find anyone who speaks crime uh, on the other side of the fashion, that is the Taylor zone,
Mhm.
yes, they will have to eliminate you. And we saw that. I saw that before my own eyes, killing people because of whether they are crime and they can, or whether they were affiliated with the government or maybe government official or family member, and people die because of that. And so and people still seek redress. They want for the justice system to work in their favor, for them to get justice in every way, so that they can feel satisfied. And this is where we see that when it comes to reconciliation will not happen
Mm.
when the human mind and the heart, um, it is not satisfied. Because reconcile, we can call reconciliation, but justice should always stand out as the yardstick,
Sure.
uh, toward peace and security in our country. Is
Sure.
it, do we have a lot of bad people who have bad intentions to still cause chaos in our society? Do they still have the potential? Yes, they are, because they did not fully undergo any kind of a traumatic rehabilitation after the war, especially the young people at the time, way back. Now, 15 years later on, they are men and they have families, they have children, and they have a mindset or mentality to use force by all necessary means, to use force in order to get that way. And so, how do we out those people from the society, or how can we create some sort of environment where they can focus more on seeking a peace of mind, a peaceful environment, and also respect the dignity of human life as a whole? And so those are things that, or issues that I believe that policymakers should be thinking about, to see how they can um, um, put in place certain policy, rehabilitation policy. I know it is part of the government policy, but it has not been reinforced. According to Senator Dillon of Bosarada County, he said yes, it was in the budget for rehabilitation, including the prison population, but that money, it is not being used. And who is getting that money? We don't see any rehabilitation going on. And so it is a problem. It is a systemic problem that needs to be addressed fully if we want to have a fair justice system. Because if people do not have trust in the justice system, it can become a big problem for governance as a whole, not from the executive branch, but also the legislative and the judiciary branch. So it affects the three branches of government, and even the fourth estate, the press, the media, which of course McCarthy, the US ambassador, urged very sternly that they should be focusing on the issues that matter to the people, instead of going with the fly of the pomps and pageantry of the electoral process.
So, and I will speak to that, and then I go back to scripture, because the Bible is clear on justice as well. God
Mhm.
wants justice for His people. But on the issue of the media, Ambassador McCarthy said that the media or journalists should focus on the inconsistencies of these political parties, which is very important. You say one thing today, tomorrow you say another thing, the next day you say another thing. The media should highlight these inconsistencies so that the citizenry sees that it's people talking through both sides of the mouth. Okay, you
Mhm.
say what is red today because you want to appease certain thing, and then tomorrow you said it's blue because you want to appease another thing. It's dangerous, because if the media does not highlight these things, the citizenry might not see it, and then it's buried. And I agree, as a former media man, I agree with the ambassador. But coming back to the issue of justice, at least the word of God is very clear on that. I was looking at Psalm 82, Psalm 82, and it says, "Give justice to the weak and the fatherless. Maintain the right of the afflicted and the destitute. Give justice to the weak." When people go to court, they might not be weak physically, but they are weak when it comes to their rights being violated. So that they
Mhm.
want they want justice from the court system, where they will be given a due process in that situation. Some people complain they don't see that. So the Bible is clear about that. Even in Isaiah 117, I may read it from the word of God. Say, learn to do good, seek justice, correct oppression, bring justice to the fatherless, and please the widow's cause. So God is concerned about justice. God is concerned about peace. And as you are right, in the face of justice, peace prevails. because people know when the rights are violated, they can run to the judiciary, and the rights can be respected. But if they
Yeah.
don't see that, if they don't see that, Ellis, which I agree you 100%, if they don't see that, they may want to resort into violence, and violence begets violence. Look at what happened at Prince Johnson's Church. Violence begets violence, and I'm glad that violence did not beget violence at his ministry. The rehabilitation you talk about after the war, young children were drugged to go to the war. You and I know that it's clear. The NPFL, the IPFL, all these people had child soldiers. We were there. We saw them.
Mm-hmm.
They were drugged to fight. Now, after everything, these people need to be rehabilitated and brought back into society properly. If that does not happen, they have that war mentality, and who knows, they might get back into violence if we're not careful how we deal with the situation. You saw the stampede in Yucatan at that crusade a few years ago. They said it was the quote unquote Zokos. I just call them disadvantaged youth, but they call them Zoko. So I don't like that name, but that's how they call them. They were accused of causing that violence because they wanted to quote unquote steal. So who knows the truth of that matter? We need to focus on the main things that will keep our country afloat, politically, democratically, economically, socially, medically, all the different issues that we are confronted with, Alex.
Yes, yes, and that's true. And if you're just joining us, this is the Gracious Hope Live podcast. My name is Pastor Alexander Ray here, along with Reverend Suah as Deddeh. We are always here on the weekend, and we talk about contemporary issues. And today we're focusing on the irony of the Liberian justice system. And of course, our guest could not make it in because of some video feed that should have brought him in a studio to be more stable. Apparently, he's driving, so we're expecting for him to have a very stable video feed, and so he's unable to appear because we are almost out of time. We got like what 10 more minutes on this program.
Yeah.
But well, what we are talking about here, you can be a part of it by discussing this and also sharing this video because you can help address this issue of injustice, and then we all can work toward um, and a just and equitable society because your voice matters. Your voice matters because together we can make a real difference in Liberia's fight for justice and fairness. And when there is injustice, yeah, it can lead to various adverse consequences, okay, for both the individuals and the society. And we have seen that in our country for a long time. Because of injustice, that's where we end up today. And so people may feel marginalized, they may feel oppressed, they may feel powerless, they may feel the anger, the frustration, the hopelessness. And once people begin to uh, experience those feelings or those emotional feelings, then trauma. And the next thing will be, well, I have to take law into my own hands. And that's how we see people uh, uh, take law into their own hand and they commit heinous crimes and then violence. And then because there's no injustice, because injustice can also perpetuate inequality and discrimination, and it can result in a long-term social and economic impact. And that is what our country is facing today. We are facing this problem today because people do not have a sense of justice. God has wired our DNA with the sense of justice because justice is an attribute. Is attribute an attribute of God. It is communicable attribute of God. In a sense, what I'm saying, I'm using a theological term here now, uh, but what I'm saying is that God, he can transfer his justice, or he transfers justice, the sense of justice to us and truth to us. For example, we all know the right from wrong because it is inbuilt in us, in our DNA. God built also the sense of justice to know what is fair and unfair because why? He attributed that to us. But our God is also a God of justice. So when the scripture says God made man into his own image, or let us make man like us. Yes, he built some of his attributes into us, even though he's holy and apart from us, in a sense where he's a holy God, he's eternal, he's infinite, and he's omniscient. He's omnipresent, and we cannot match him every way. But he has given us certain ability, and we are capable to use some of the attributes that he has given to us to live and create society and order, as we can see in the world today. And so at times we tend to ignore the truth that is built in our DNA because of our own selfish ambition, our own pride getting in the way, and then we don't have want to um, experience the punishment from treating other people with the treating other people unfairly. And because we want to avoid that, sometimes we lie, we concord plans to avert that. And that is what happening in any justice system, and even in our justice system today, regarding even, for example, the cocaine case. 100 million of worth of cocaine brought in the country. That should be something that the government should do everything possible to ground those that are responsible. But then in the end, we see injustice came out. And who knows, that might have been happening in our country for a long time. Drugs have been coming out of our country for a long time. Human trafficking going on, trafficking going on. But how can it be averted? Well, do we have a strong justice system? Now, what we see so far, when 100 million drug case out of the window, and the defendants, why they fled the country after that, and they demanded that the government pays the defendants $100,000, over $100,000, right? Correct?
That's what I'm hearing.
Yeah, that is a travesty. But this is all a result or outcome of injustice that we have experienced over the years, and inequity and discrimination and oppression and frustration and anger and economic impact of our country today. So addressing and combating injustice to promote fairness and equality in our society, it is very crucial, because injustice can cause people to lose trust in all of the institutions that exist, and it can lead to the anger and frustration. And that is why justice is always important, Reverend Deddeh.
Uh, we're on the same page with this, because if you look at injustice, occurs when individual oppose individuals. I mean, oppress individuals. It's on a level with individual to individual, and then it comes to the level of government, a systematic laws that suppress people, in a sense where you cannot do anything for yourselves, because the laws are made in a way where you are oppressed. That could be a systemic oppression. I'm not saying that's what happening in Liberia right now, because we have good laws, Ellis. I can boast to say we have our pinnacle is good. It's parting after that of the United States of America, like our flag. But the implementation of the law is it's where the problem exists. The implementation. Do we have good judges? I believe we have good judges. Do we have a sincere police officers, Ellis? I say yes, we have sincere police officers. But the sincere one and and those who are not sincere, the ratio is what counts sometimes. If the sincere ones are less than those who are unsincere, then it's a problem. So what are we seeing, Ellis? In the face of oppression, it comes both sides. It comes from people to people, and the system to the people. How do we deal with that? If we have system that can vet itself, system that will take care of itself, system that will question itself, system that will take in a retrospective look and internalize what's going on, you have to make amends. And how do you do that? You listen to the voices like Ambassador McCarthy and other people who, or like Savice, who could not come up today, other people who see things differently. Hear from them. Don't see them as people who are opposed to progress. You call them enemies. I know enemies of progress, as some people call them. The moment you criticize, the moment you see things the other way, you see blue instead of black, you are enemy of progress. You're not necessarily enemy of progress. Those who criticize you unduly are the enemies of progress. But how do you do it, Ellis? Is to be mindful that we have only one country. We cannot afford to go back to where we've come. And how do we keep ourselves on the road to peace? Is to look at ourselves, criticize ourselves, scrutinize ourselves and make sure we don't go back to the dark days that we are running from. We suffer it. You were there.
Yes.
I was there. We suffer it. We don't want to go back to that time, Alex.
Nobody wants to go back. We want peace right now but peace can only prevail when we not only just have the sense of justice and cry out justice, but actually implementing justice. And just how you made a point very clear, enforcement of the law on the books. That's where the problem is. Enforcement, to enforce a law fairly to each individual who cry out in the justice system, because injustice can breed frustration and trauma. And that is what our country is going through right now. And hopefully, we all can prevent that by staying true to our moral values and principles upon which our country was founded. And also, our faith that we stand for or we profess to have in Christ Jesus. We're a nation of people, predominantly Christian, but however, we must allow our values and morals to manifest itself in our interaction, interpersonal actions with people, and both in our capacity or position or authority, as well as in the capacity of a neighbor in a neighborhood or in our immediate community as a whole. And so, well, that is where we will end our podcast today. Our guest could not come in because he is going through some, as you saw on the screen, 3 or 4 times he came through, but he couldn't get the right feed or the stable video so that he could share his knowledge about his experience when it comes to gathering signatures for a war crime code in Liberia, and also his advocacy for justice, and why does he believe that justice is the way that we can bring about reconciliation and true healing of our country. But however, we are hoping to have him here maybe next time in the future, and we'll take a look at his perspective. Reverend Deddeh, any final word before we depart here?
Yeah, so somebody text me, Alex. I wish they had text the general viewers. And the question was, what is injustice? What is injustice? That's the question from the text. You can comment on that as we close, but my comment is injustice is the absence of justice. Now, instead, make it more confusing. What is the absence of justice? And that means the violation of what is considered right or just or of the rights of others. So when the rights of others are violated, when the rights of others are not respected, the freedom of speech, of expression, movement, assembly, all those things, if they're not respected, your rule of law, when I go to court and I don't get due process, those are semblance of injustices. And that's what we're saying. They are rearing their heads in Liberia. We don't want that. And we got to keep talking as the ambassador is doing. Liberians got to speak out. Let people criticize you all they can, but your criticism should be objective, not subjective, and not discussing personalities, but discussing the issue. So, what is injustice? Is the absence of the respect of rule of law, the respect of rights, and the 9 years, Alex.
Okay, in just a simple term, let me make it more practical. So if I were to come and snatch your wallet away, you have your money in there, you have your credit card, and then I run from the scene, and you know me and you see me, you might have taken a video or maybe a picture of me, and you go to the justice system, said, "This man stole from me, and I need justice. I need my wallet back, and I need for you to pay for the pain, the emotional pain that I felt, the trauma, and the cry, and all the time that I wasted. I couldn't go to work. I need redress. I need compensation." And the judge looks in your face and tells you that, "Hey, okay, you got your wallet. Okay, your wallet is back. Okay, take your wallet. Okay, you can go. You don't have to pay for anything." Will you see that as fairness? So injustice, in a sense, is when you shout, "It's unfair. I am treated badly. It is unfair to me." That sense you feel that somebody violated your right. That's injustice. I hope I explain it in a more practical way. That's injustice. When you feel that someone violated your rights or violated you, That's injustice. When you feel that you are treated unfairly, that's injustice right there. And so this is what we've been talking about. Okay, then this is how we close our podcast for today. This is a Gracious Hope Live podcast. We are here every Saturday. We'll be back here next Saturday, the same time, 3 p.m. Central Time, 4 p.m. Eastern Time, 1 p.m. Pacific Time. In Liberia, will be 8 p.m. GMT. And my name is Pastor Alexander Red and Reverend Deddeh. Hope you enjoy the weekend. We'll be back here next week. May you all have a pleasant day, and may you all have a great weekend. Enjoy and with your family, and please share this link. Okay. Until then, from our end, goodbye for now.